Successful people move on their own initiative, but they know where they're going before they start. This knowledge is the focus of the first of the 17 principles we'll examine. It's called Definiteness of Purpose, a specific objective toward which you're working. The successful people are those who don't settle for anything short of what they set out to get. One woman in Napoleon Hill's life exemplified definiteness of purpose, and she did it against all the odds. Dr. Hill picks up the story here.
When I was 10 years of age, my mother died. And 2 years later, my father brought in a stepmother. And long before she got there, my in-laws had coached me and my little brother to hate that woman who's coming in to take my mother's place. And we had done a wonderful job of getting ready to hate her. And my father brought her home. All the relatives were down there, and they were standing around. My father took her around and introduced her to all the uncles and aunts, and they said, and over here in the corner, Martha, is your son Napoleon, the meanest boy in Wise County, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he starts throwing rocks at you by tomorrow morning. That tightened up my arms. I said, you're doggone right, I'll show that woman something. And I meant to do just that. She came over and put her hand under my chin and lifted my head way up and looked squarely into my eyes, and she turned around and made a speech that has reverberated around this world, that has influenced millions of people now already and will influence millions of others for the better. She said, you're wrong about this boy. You're just as wrong as you can be. He's not the meanest boy in Wise County. He's probably just the smartest boy who hasn't found out yet what to do with his smartness. And I knew then and there that my stepmother and I were going to get along all right. That was the first time in my life that anybody ever said anything kind about me. I was a bad boy. I had a revolver. I used it effectively, and everybody in the whole mountain section was afraid of me, and not without cause. My stepmother went to work on me. She had me trade in that revolver for a Blickensderfer typewriter, taught me to type. And in no time, we had 26 newspapers on my list. And I wrote a newsletter from those mountain sections, and when we didn't have news, ladies and gentlemen, believe you me, I made it. About a month after my stepmother came, she dropped her denture one morning and broke it. Up at that time, I never heard of such a thing as a denture. And of course, I've heard a lot about them since. My father went over. He was a watchmaker, and he had a blacksmith shop and a little country store and a post office. An all-around tinkerer, you might say. And, oh yes, what purported to be a little farm, where they put me to work when I did do just what they wanted to do among the rocks. Oh, what work it was. He reassembled the two pieces of this upper plate, looked at it for a moment, said, Martha, you know, I believe I can make a set of teeth. She ran over there and threw her arms around and said, well, I know you can make a set of teeth. I thought, what a woman, what a woman. My old man make a set of teeth. He can shoe a horse, I know, because I've seen him do it. About 3 weeks after that, when I came home from school, I smelled the most peculiar odor when I got in the yard, and when I went in the house, there was a queer little kettle sitting over the fire like that. I said to my stepmother, what is that? She said, that's a vulcanizer. Your father sent away to the dental supply house. They got the materials. He made me a set of teeth, and they're in there cooking. I thought, my gosh, what a woman. Of course, this plate was being cooked under pressure. My father took this little kettle down to the creek and cooled it off, then took out this great hunk of plaster Paris, trimmed away the outside of it, took a piece of emery cloth and dressed the plate down, and I knew they'd never get to my stepmother's mouth. It looked too big. But it fitted, he put it in, and it fitted almost perfectly, and she wore it for 3 years. Next time I came home from school, there was a neat hand-painted sign on our front door, Dr. J.M. Hill, dentist. By George, she'd made a dentist out of him overnight without the details of his going to school or taking an examination or getting a license. He went down to the blacksmith shop and he made himself some tools to pull teeth, and you should see them. Oh, boy, they did the business. And he loaded this stuff in the pair saddle pockets and started practicing dentistry over in eastern Kentucky and southwest Virginia, down in Tennessee. Well, in just no time, we were in the money, really in the money, making $50, $60 a month. That went on for about 3 years. When one day the local justice of the peace came down with a law book under his arm, said, look here, Dr. Hill, Section 540 of the Code of Virginia says you have to have a license to practice dentistry. If you don't have it, you're liable to go to jail. Well, he and my stepmother went into a caucus with the understanding my father would ride out to the county seat and see a lawyer. And late in the afternoon, I saw him riding down the valley, and I knew by the way he was slumped on the horse that he had done just what 999 out of every 1,000 generally always do. He accepted the problem as something he couldn't do anything about. The lawyer said he had to take an examination, and my father came to the conclusion he didn't have education enough to take an examination, and he dismounted. He said, well, Martha, it's all over. The lawyer says, I have to take an examination, and you know I don't have enough education to do that. Now, the average woman would have walked away and said, it was just too bad, we'd try something else. But that wasn't the way my stepmother operated. If she'd operated like that, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you today, and I wouldn't be talking to millions of people all over the world, because there would have been no Napoleon Hill. She said, now look here, Dr. Hill, I haven't made a dentist out of you to have you let me down. If you have to go away to college and learn how to take an examination just like others, then that's exactly what you do. And I thought, my goodness, what a woman, what a woman. My old man go away to college, why, they wouldn't let him on the campus, let alone matriculate. You know what she did? I'm talking to you now about somebody who moves with definiteness of purpose and don't know the opposite to definiteness of purpose. Sent my father down to Louisville Dental College, put him through college for 4 years with the life insurance money of her former husband, and made one of the most outstanding dentists in Southwest Virginia. He became one of the most prominent dentists probably in the whole state of Virginia. That's how she operated. That's how anybody will operate who gets a hold of this philosophy, the way that it's capable of being used. And if you didn't have anything else in the world except this lesson number 1 and knew exactly what you wanted and stood by your guns, you could almost forget the other 16 principles. It's just that important.
You can write your own success story if you find your own definite purpose. To compose the first chapter, you need to know and implement the 7 factors that are part of definiteness of purpose.
The first premise or factor is this. The starting point of all achievements is the adoption of a definite purpose, accompanied by a definite plan for its attainment, followed by an appropriate action. That means plan, purpose, and action. Those 3 words constitute the first factor. Now, there has never been known to be a success in any calling except as the result of definiteness of purpose. Now, we all have purposes, varying purposes, but they're not definite. Most often they are hopes and wishes. We all wish for money, we wish for opportunity, we wish for love and affection, we wish for recognition, we wish for a lot of things. But wishing is not just quite enough. Before you can be sure of success, you have to have a definite objective, a definite plan for getting it, and you have to back that plan with everything you have. And you have to treat your mind constantly until the subconscious section of the mind picks up your plan and finds out what it is that you want. The second premise is that all individual achievements are the results of a motive or a combination of motives. Now, you never heard of anybody accomplishing anything in this world or doing anything except as the result of a motive. All sane people move as the result of motives. And there are 9 basic motives under which you can classify every impulse that you have to do or not to do throughout life. And here they are. Number 1 is the emotion of love. Number 2 is the emotion of sex. And number 3 is the desire for material wealth. Now, these are known as the big 3. And it has been said that these 3 emotions practically govern the entire world. And I don't think that's an overstatement of the truth by any means. Number 4 is the desire for self-preservation. Number 5 is the desire for freedom of body and mind. And number 6 is the desire for personal expression and recognition. That's an outstanding motive, the desire for personal recognition and expression. And number 7, the desire for perpetuation of life after death. Now, those are the 7 positives, and here come the 2 negatives that influence your lives very often more than the positives, the ones that you have to look out for. Number 8 is the desire for revenge. You would be surprised at how much of one's life is devoted to wanting to strike back at somebody for some imaginary or real grievance. And yet all such effort is destructive. And number 9 is the grandfather of them all. Guess what that is? Probably influences more human action than all other motives combined, and yet the most destructive of them all. Number 9 is the emotion of fear. And under that heading, there are 7 basic fears, 7 things that you have to be on the lookout for constantly, all the way through life. Number 1 is the fear of poverty. Now, why anybody should be afraid of poverty in a great nation like this, where opportunity abounds on every hand, is more than I can understand. But I do know that the vast majority of my students have to be treated first for the fear of poverty. They have to be made success conscious, and you'll never be successful at anything until you do become success conscious. You'll have to get over that idea of self-limitation. And the second of the 7 basic fears is the fear of criticism. You're lucky indeed if you come this far in life, all of you or any of you, without having suffered from the fear of criticism. The fear of what they'll say. Now, I have heard so many people say, well, I'd do so-and-so if it weren't for what they will say, and I have never yet found out who they were. They are entirely imaginary beings, yet you'd be surprised how powerful they are. They stupefy enthusiasm, they cut down your personal initiative, they destroy your imagination, and they make it practically impossible for you to accomplish anything above mediocrity. Number 4 is the fear of ill health. The doctors know too well what that fear does. It results in a condition known as hypochondria, or imaginary illness. And number 5 is the fear of the loss of love of someone, upon which all of that form of dementia praecox known as jealousy is based. Jealousy doesn't require a reason. It can be just as violent and just as destructive where there is no basis for it as where there is a basis. But it is a motivating force and a fear, one of the 7 basic fears. Number 6 is the fear of old age. I don't know why men and women should be afraid that they're going to dry out and blow away when they get to that nice ripe old age of 40 to 50. The real achievements of the world were the results of men and women who had gone well beyond the age of 50, and the greatest age of achievement was between 65 and 75. So I don't know why one should be afraid of old age, but nevertheless they are. And the last and the grandfather of them all is the fear of death. It's the rarest thing in the world to find a person who hasn't at one time or other been afraid of dying. Now, this course and this philosophy, before you finish with it, will, I hope, prepare you to eliminate all of those 7 basic fears, particularly the last one. Now, the third premise is that any dominating idea, plan, or purpose which you hold in your mind through repetition of thought, and which is emotionalized with a burning desire for its realization, is taken over by the subconscious section of the mind and acted upon through whatever natural and logical means that may be available. In the slang of the day, there is a mouthful in that sentence. Any dominating idea, plan, or purpose held in the mind through repetition of thought, and which is emotionalized with a burning desire for its realization, is taken over by the subconscious section of the mind and acted upon through whatever natural and logical means that may be available. Now, the key ideas in that sentence is natural and logical means and a burning desire. Well, a burning desire is a desire which prompts you to be willing to give anything in the world, whatever the price may be, in order to attain the object of that desire. A burning desire is one that you take to bed with you at night. You give it over to your subconscious mind at night. You get up with it in the morning. You eat with it. You sleep with it. You first get it, and then it gets you. Now, that's what a burning desire is. You may have to talk about it. You may have to think about it. However, when it comes to talking about it, be careful where you talk, because you may become boresome to somebody. Now, some of these things that I'm going to tell you about may seem fantastic. Some of them you may never have done before. Don't just take a part of this philosophy and apply it. Take it just as I give it to you, and no matter how foolish it may seem to you or to those around you at the beginning, follow it to the letter. The fourth premise is that any dominating desire, plan, or purpose which is backed by that state of mind known as faith is taken over by the subconscious section of the mind and acted upon almost immediately. The fifth premise, the power of thought is the only thing over which any human being has complete, unquestionable control. A fact so astounding that it connotes a close relationship between the mind of man and infinite intelligence. the very fact that the Creator gave man control over only one thing, it was intended that that one thing should be sufficient for the man's needs. And believe you me, it is sufficient if you use it properly. If there isn't anything you can't achieve which you can conceive and believe. If you can conceive an idea, a plan, or a purpose and believe that you can achieve it, you can find out ways and means of doing it. But you have to be definite about it. You have to be specific. You have to know what it is you want. You have to know why you want it. And you have to make up your mind what you're going to give in return for it. Because nature frowns upon the idea of something for nothing. And the sixth premise, the subconscious section of the mind appears to be the only doorway of individual approach to infinite intelligence. The basis of the approach is faith, based upon definiteness of purpose. Any idea, plan, or purpose held in the mind in a spirit of faith begins almost immediately to reveal to you ways and means of carrying out that idea. The seventh principle, every brain is both a broadcasting set and a receiving station for the vibrations of thought, a fact which explains the importance of moving with definiteness of purpose instead of drifting, since the brain may be so thoroughly charged with the nature of one's purpose that it will begin to attract the physical or material equivalents of that purpose. That's an astounding thing, ladies and gentlemen, all the more so because it is a provable fact. That is to say that the first broadcasting and receiving set ever built was the brain of man. And whether you recognize it or not, you're constantly tuning in on the vibrations of other people, especially the people with whom you are in harmony. I mean, where your thoughts and their thoughts agree. If your thoughts happen to be of poverty, of failure, of illness, why, you tune in the thoughts of all other people who are releasing similar thoughts. If your thoughts are dominating the controlled by thoughts of success and riches, opulence, you'll be tuning in on the thoughts of all other people who think along those lines. There will be times when ideas will flash into your mind that are so negative that they almost scare you. You wonder where they came from. You wonder why your mind would hand over to you such destructive thoughts. And if the truth were known, you are just, you've left your receiving set open. You've tuned in on the wrong type of minds. This philosophy is designed to keep your receiving set closed to all except the kind of minds that you want, and those are positive minds. Minds that think in terms of what you want instead of what you don't want. I think one of the strangest things in life consists in this, that most people go all the way through life, regardless of their education or their standing or their opportunity. They go all the way through life as failures. They suffer with fears and limitations, and strictly speaking, they never find happiness. And the reason, if you would examine it, is that they allow their minds to dwell upon failures, poverty, ill health, and the things they don't want. Now, the mind has a peculiar way of attracting to you the things that it feeds upon, things that it associates with. It's like a rotten apple in a barrel, and you can't afford it. You can't afford close association with people who are not vibrating on all 12 cylinders. Pick out the winners. Be like the man who went to the restaurant and ordered lobster, and when they brought him out, he had one of his big claws was gone. He complained about it, and the waiter said, oh, he got in a fight and lost that one. Said, bring me the winner. I want the winner. Now, that's the idea exactly. Associate with winners because they'll do something to you. And if you associate with failures, they'll do something to you in spite of all you can do.
One thing you can do to become a winner is to tap the power of your subconscious mind in moving toward your goal. You can use it to connect with a universal sort of power.
The subconscious section of the mind appears to be the only doorway of individual approach to the universal supply of infinite intelligence, and it is capable of being influenced only by a definiteness of purpose backed by enduring belief. Definiteness of purpose automatically develops self-reliance, personal initiative, imagination, enthusiasm, self-discipline, and concentration of effort, all of these being prerequisites for the attainment of success. It induces one to budget one's time and to create day-by-day plans which lead to the attainment of one's overall or major purpose in life. It makes one more alert in recognizing opportunities related to the object of one's definite major purpose. It inspires confidence in one's integrity and character.
and it attracts the favorable attention of people who may aid one in the attainment of one's aims and purposes in life. It opens the way for the full exercise of that state of mind known as faith, by making the mind positive and freeing it from the limitations of fear and doubt and anxiety. Last but not least, it makes one success conscious, this being the first step in the direction of successful achievement in all undertakings. Definiteness of purpose aids one in developing and maintaining a positive mental attitude.
There's a simple formula to develop this positive mental attitude, and we'll look at it briefly here.
Draw a clear picture in your mind of precisely what you desire, and begin to live and act as you would if the desire had already been realized. Back your desires by as many of the basic motives as possible. Keep your desires active at all times through both physical and mental action. Inactivity in regard to desires are worthless. Number 2, sell yourself into believing you will attain the object of your desires. Keep your mind off of circumstances and things you do not desire, because the mind attracts that which it feeds upon. Here, then, are all of the reasons why you believe you are entitled to realize the objects of your desires, including that which you intend to give in return. And start giving where you stand. Form the habit of acquiring information essential for the attainment of your desires by asking questions of people whom you know to have the right answers. Keep the object of your desires to yourself, lest you set up jealousies and oppositions which may defeat you. Place as many people as possible under obligation to you by the habit of going the extra mile in rendering more service than that which is expected of you. Keep your mind free of envy and anger and greed and hatred and jealousy and revenge and fear, because these are the 7 dark riders of failure. In these instructions you have the means of developing a positive mental attitude which will attract to you the things and the people which are related to your aims and purposes in life.
Later, we'll hear more about how to develop a positive mental attitude and use faith in our own personal success story. Before we go on, we need to find out how to develop this definiteness of purpose. There are some specific steps you'll need to take to embrace your own purpose. Napoleon Hill outlines them, beginning with putting your desires on paper.
Write out a clear statement of your major purpose in life, sign it, commit it to memory, and repeat it at least twice daily in the form of a prayer or affirmation. If you are married, have your mate sign the statement with you and repeat it together just before retiring each night. Write out a clear, definite outline of the plan or plans by which you intend to achieve the object of your definite major purpose, and state the maximum of time within which you intend to achieve it. Then describe in detail precisely what you intend to give in return for the realization of the object of your purpose, keeping in mind the fact that everything has a just price which must be paid. Keep your definite major purpose strictly to yourself and your mate in marriage. Call your definite major purpose into your conscious mind as often as may be practical. Eat with it, sleep with it, and take it with you every hour of the day, keeping in mind the fact that your subconscious mind can be influenced to work for its attainment while you sleep. Here is a very interesting case which shows what may happen when one neglects to move with definiteness of purpose. Some years ago, R.U. Darby from Baltimore, Maryland, had the good fortune to discover a very rich vein of gold while vacationing in the West. He went back home and borrowed money from friends and relatives with which to install mining machinery, and went to work mining the rich gold ore. Now, all went well for a few weeks. Then suddenly the vein stopped. In sheer desperation, Darby sold the mining equipment to a junk dealer for a fraction of what it had cost, and he returned home. But the junk dealer proved himself smart by calling in a mining engineer who examined the mine, then announced that a fault in the earth had cut off the vein of ore. He said, "Dig ahead and you will pick up the vein again." The new owner, the man with definiteness of purpose, dug ahead just 3 feet and there picked up the vein again. His definiteness of purpose yielded him several millions of dollars. The mine turned out to be one of the richest in the West. And every day one sees men and women stopping just short of a glorious success because they are drifting through life without aim or purpose.
If you like, you can stop the tape now and do the written work associated with your definiteness of purpose. When you write out your definite purpose, your goal, be sure to focus on specifics. List the information or knowledge you seek, the work you want to do, or the kind of personality you desire. Write down what you want to be paid each year, the places you want to visit, or the skills you want to possess. And give yourself a definite timetable in which to accomplish these things. When you're finished, make this statement a binding agreement. Sign it, and think of it as an agreement with your subconscious. Your subconscious will work toward this purpose even when you aren't. Once you've targeted your definite major purpose, you don't have to work toward it alone. In the next principle, you'll hear how to enlist the help of others to achieve personal greatness. This